Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of determinism. We'll be exploring the nature of cause and effect and looking closely at the different types of determinism that shape our understanding of how events and actions are connected. It's an intriguing topic that reaches into philosophy, science, and everyday life, and I'm excited to take you through this overview. Let's get started. Here we're exploring the concept of determinism. Simply put, determinism is the idea that every event, including our actions and decisions, is caused by prior states or forces. This means nothing happens randomly. Everything is the result of a chain reaction from what came before. It's important to understand this because it impacts how we think about ethics, science, and history. For example, if our choices are predetermined, that raises questions about moral responsibility. Similarly, in science, determinism helps explain cause and effect relationships, and in history, it shapes how we interpret events and their outcomes. The image illustrates this concept perfectly. Just like stopping one domino can prevent a chain reaction, understanding determinism helps us grasp how events are interconnected, which reflects the belief in a divine plan controlling the course of events. Similarly, in Hinduism and Buddhism, the concept of karma represents spiritual laws that influence future lives based on past actions. These examples show how religious determinism is expressed across different faith traditions, emphasizing control by spiritual forces or divine intentions. Here, we're looking at the concept of physical determinism. This idea is rooted in the laws of motion and causality, which tell us that every event follows from natural laws and physical causes. Essentially, nothing happens randomly. Everything is caused by something that came before it, according to classical mechanics. Building on that, the second point highlights predictability. If we know the initial conditions, meaning the starting state of a system, we can, in theory, predict how things will develop in the future using these same laws. This means that the future is, at least in principle, calculable and determined by what happens in the present. The image here complements this concept, evoking a thoughtful, reflective mood as we consider how these scientific principles shape our understanding of the world. Here, we're diving into the concept of biological determinism, which explores how our biology shapes who we are. First, genetic influences play a fundamental role. Our genes are crucial in forming traits that impact both behavior and physical characteristics. Moving to neurobiology and hormones, our brain function and hormonal processes are key drivers that regulate how we respond and act in various situations. Finally, we look at the environment and criticism, which highlights that traits emerge not just from biology alone, but from the complex interplay between genes and environmental factors. This area often sparks debates around how much behavior can truly be reduced to biology, reminding us that the story is more nuanced than simple cause and effect. Here we explore the concept of psychological determinism, which suggests that our behavior is influenced by various internal and external factors. First, we have unconscious drives. These are internal processes we're not aware of, yet they significantly impact how we act. Next, learning and conditioning show how our behavior is shaped through experience and reinforcement, a core idea in behaviorism. Finally, cognitive structures refer to the patterns of thought that guide our decisions and actions, highlighting the role of mental frameworks in behavior. Together, these elements illustrate how multiple psychological forces work behind the scenes to determine our actions. Here we're looking at three important perspectives within historical determinism. First, from a Marxist viewpoint, material conditions and class relations are seen as the main forces driving historical change. It highlights how economic realities shape society's evolution. Then we have technological determinism, which emphasizes innovations and technological advancements as key drivers of social and economic development. This perspective sees progress in tools and machinery as shaping history's course. Finally, institutional evolution points out that changes in political and social institutions significantly influence the direction and outcomes of history over time. Each of these elements plays a critical role in how history unfolds, showing us that various factors, from material forces to technology to institutions, interact to shape our world. Just like the machinery operated by the worker in this textile factory image, these forces operate together to drive continuous change. Here we're exploring the concept of economic determinism. Starting with the Marxist foundations, Marxist theory suggests that the economic structures and class relations form the basis that primarily shapes societal outcomes. In other words, the way society is organized economically has a major impact on its overall structure and development. Moving on to modern analysis, contemporary studies build on this by emphasizing how material interests strongly influence political, cultural, and legal changes. Essentially, these modern perspectives highlight that economic factors continue to play a crucial role in shaping various aspects of society today. The image of the euro coins next to surgical masks subtly underscores the connection between economic conditions and social factors, especially relevant in current times. Here we have a comparison of the major forms of causation, each characterized by its primary causal agent, an example, and a key criticism. Starting with the religious form, it attributes causality to divine will, like predestination in theology, but it is often criticized for limiting human free will. The physical form relies on natural laws, as seen in Newtonian mechanics, though it tends to overlook phenomena like quantum indeterminacy. Biological causation points to genetic inheritance and physiology, exemplified by evolutionary biology, but it can be overly reductionist when explaining behavior. Psychological causation focuses on mental states and unconscious motives, such as in Freudian psychoanalysis, yet its subjective nature makes it difficult to verify. Historical causation links events to larger historical processes, like Marxist historical materialism, though it sometimes presents a deterministic view of complex events. Finally, economic causation emphasizes economic conditions and class relations, seen in capitalist economic determinism, but it may neglect important cultural and individual factors. This table helps us understand the different lenses through which causality is interpreted, along with their potential limitations. Here we're looking at some important criticisms and nuances when analyzing complex systems. First, reductionism simplifies complex phenomena by breaking them down into basic deterministic causes. While this approach can be useful, it often overlooks the important higher-level interactions that shape the bigger picture. Next, we have predictive limits. Due to quantum uncertainty and the inherent complexity of systems, it's often impossible to make precise long-term predictions. This uncertainty challenges the idea that everything can be forecasted with certainty. Then, the role of contingency reminds us that chance events can influence outcomes in ways that go beyond strict deterministic rules. Unexpected factors can always come into play, altering expected results. Finally, agency and multi-causal models highlight how human choices and multiple interacting causes combine to shape outcomes. It's rarely just one cause at work. Instead, different factors interact dynamically. Altogether, these points emphasize the need for a more nuanced, flexible approach when studying complex phenomena. Understanding determinism is crucial because it shapes how we think about responsibility and ethics. For example, determinism influences the ways we assign blame or praise in moral evaluations. Essentially, it affects our sense of ethics and responsibility. Then, when it comes to policy and institutions, the views we hold about causation play a big role in guiding decisions in areas like law, medicine, and social policies. These perspectives impact how rules are made and enforced in society. Finally, on the scientific front, our assumptions about causality not only direct the methods researchers use, but also affect the accuracy of forecasting and predictions. So, as you can see, grasping determinism goes beyond philosophy. It directly informs important aspects of science, policy, and ethics. As we wrap up, let's summarize the key ideas we've covered. First, the core claims of determinism vary widely. Religious determinism highlights the role of divine will, while physical determinism focuses on the laws of nature governing events. Moving on to human factors, biological determinism looks at genetics as a determining influence, and psychological determinism centers on the mental processes shaping behavior. Finally, societal forces come into play through historical determinism, which examines past events, and economic determinism, which stresses material conditions affecting outcomes. Together, these perspectives provide a comprehensive understanding of how various forces shape our world.